This is the iPhone SE, and I just upgraded it to iOS 15, Apple's latest software. This phone was released in early 2016 and shares most same internals as 2015's iPhone 6s lineup. Yeah, these are Obama-era phones. It has Apple's A9 chip, 2GB of RAM, and this model has 32GB of internal storage. Its 4-inch screen is positively tiny by today's standards, the battery is microscopic, and its performance is pretty lacking these days, but it all still works and it's running the latest software available, which is kind of insane. This little phone shipped with iOS 9.3, and iOS 15 makes its 6th major software update it's received since its release. This released at the same time in the same year as the Google Pixel, the original one, and the Samsung Galaxy S7. The Pixel got its last major update, its last security update too, I think, in 2018, and the Samsung Galaxy S7 is 4 versions of Android behind what is currently available. So this is really, really different from the rest of the industry. I think it's really great that Apple does this and keeps their phones as up to date as they can. Yes, there will be some people who are upset about this. There is a narrative of forced obsolescence out there, and I don't think that really plays, especially when you compare it to what other phone makers do. Apple is keeping these phones up to date. I'm going to show you some features in iOS 15 that you never could have dreamed of shipping on a phone back when the iPhone SE released, and it's there today, and it works really, really well considering the old hardware. So with that out of the way, I did want to look at this phone running iOS 15. I didn't want to go over every single thing, but I took a look at a lot of the mainstream coverage of iOS 15 to see what people are talking about, what people think are the most notable updates, and I think I've come down to 7 things I want to show you. I'll show you how they work on the iPhone SE, and I'll compare them in some cases to the more modern iPhones so you can get an idea for what is there and what isn't there maybe in this older phone. So let's jump into it. FaceTime gets some new features, such as creating links to share with Windows and Android users, which of course works perfectly on the iPhone SE, as does the new grid view, but portrait mode and some of the noise cancellation stuff that they're doing with the newer phones is not available on the SE. Focus mode is my absolute favorite thing about iOS 15, and it syncs over perfectly to your iPhone SE as well. You can do all of the custom rule setting and home screen customization that the newer phones have as well, so there's really no compromises here at all. Safari has been super controversial this year, and the changes are on the iPhone SE this year as well. The bottom address bar, tab groups that sync across your devices, and everything else is on the SE and works exactly how you'd expect it coming from the newer phones. Now, live text is one of the coolest new features in iOS 15. It lets you find text in images, as well as straight in your camera before you even snap a photo. But it's super slick and does not exist on the iPhone SE. This does require Apple's Neural Engine, so the SE sadly is left out of the party on this one. There's a new Shared With You feature, which makes it so that things that are shared with you primarily in iMessage, whether they be links or music or TV shows or photos, those will show up in different apps on your phone, whether it be links will show in Safari, news stories will show in Apple News, music will show in Apple Music, that sort of thing. These are also on the iPhone SE and work perfectly well, all exactly the same here, so there's really no loss for the SE. Maps got some pretty high-end updates this year, including some immaculately detailed 3D models and a more high-resolution navigation UI, but the iPhone SE doesn't have the horsepower to drive these, so these aren't here either, unfortunately. And then bringing up the rear, we have the weather app, which got some updates to notifications, a new UI, and added some really slick animations. The notifications and refreshed UI did make it to the SE, but the fancy animations sadly didn't. So I think it's super important for smartphone makers to support the devices they ship. I think it's important for consumers to be able to buy a phone and make sure that it's going to be usable for years. And part of that is performance. I do want to make sure that people who have had issues in the past where software updates make them feel like their phone is slower, I totally get that. That does suck. But I also think another important piece is that these phones continue to get security updates, and these phones continue to get software updates to add features to them so that you're keeping up with what other phones are getting, so you don't feel compelled to buy a new phone necessarily. I think that's good for consumers. Doubly good this year is that Apple is no longer they've never forced you to update, but they've really made it obvious that you should update. And so if you're on an older device and you maybe don't want to do iOS 15 yet, you can stick on iOS 14. They're doing updates a little differently this year so that it's more easy to stick on the old version. You can check that out. I'll try to show a screenshot on here to show you kind of what that looks like. But you can go to iOS 15 when and if you're ready. So I think that's a really nice balance that they're striking with these devices. So that is it for me today. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and I will see you here next time. Bye-bye.